Yeah, it's funny. So tonight, yeah,
I should go get my notes.
Probably, maybe.
Yeah.
You'll want me that, so it's funny, we were talking and so here's a couple of these things. One, if next week we have no one here, we're doing the presentation again. It's just, we had said when we went to every week that we were going to do the presentation whether we had anybody here or not. That's new, and so in a normal situation we would. But we want to kind of use tonight a little bit differently.
So much going on.
There's so much going on and so many opportunities to kind of communicate and grow, and so it really the benefit of a meeting like this, right? Whether we have new guests or old guests, is for us to change, for us to grow, for us to recognize the moment of where we are, and to be able to take advantage of the shot. And so, and I was talking with a couple of the folks. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I'm going to take a lot of ownership about tonight's meeting attendance. And the primary reason is that for the last couple months, we've done a pretty good job of making sure that I've done a relatively decent job, and you guys have done a great job of making sure that we have guests. And there's kind of an aligned thinking, right? And so it's we have guests and you have guests, but it's their culture, and the impact of Stacy leaving has been positive and exciting and all sorts of good things, but it's been a distraction. It just has. It'd be silly and irresponsible for me to say that it hasn't. Not a bad thing, but as an owner, there are going to be lots of things in your life. As you guys become, regional vice presidents, Tony and Wendy become regional vice presidents, they're going to have things that happen in their life, right or wrong. And so how many of us can agree that we're not always going to be as focused as we'd like to be, right? Well, one of the best things I can do as a leader, one of the best things we can do as a leadership team is to say, look, our goal is to never lose focus. We don't start out going, let's see if we can screw the pooch on this one. But we do the best we can. But once we recognize that we've lost a little bit of focus and there's an impact, that's how we can reset it, right? For me to be able to have this public conversation and say, Cindy, I haven't been talking to you every day about making sure that we grow and who we're going to see and where things going, because my mind has been distracted on, we've got to get these different pieces in place. And so that's a really cool thing to be able to recognize and say, oh, okay, I got caught with my mouth open, right? I didn't expect that. Boom, let's reset and let's blow out next week. Does that make sense? And that's all because you're not going to be perfect. I know some of you are convinced you are. Maybe you're the one that is, right? But for the rest of us, we're going to be flawed quite often. Wow, y'all got serious on that one. But I got a couple things. I'm going to tell kind of 3 different stories, and then Robin had an unbelievable experience on Saturday. So you're going to share that a little bit because there's just kind of some cool opportunities, and maybe I'll have a couple of y'all come share some things. So that means none of you will now listen to me until you start, praying, what talk you want to do. It's interesting. So 3 months ago, right? So our business is based on this concept, right? This strategic partnership concept that says we've got Primerica, who is the expert in financial services. We've got Access Support, which is the expert on administrative support. And then our job is to really ultimately build a support system and cultivate strategic partnerships. So our job is to be an expert here and to leverage these 2 companies. Well, I've been really committed about this thing. We've been really committed to this thing for the last couple of years. This is critical, it's vital, right? But we've had a lady that's basically run our office for 15 years. Right? And so the same person shows up. I don't have to worry about anything, right? I know it's getting done. She calls someone from the home office. They all know her. She's got an unbelievable reputation. So I'm like, yeah, this is really, really important, right? You gotta do this. It's critical. And I knew it. We created it and all this other stuff. And then about 3 weeks ago, Stacy moved on, and I cried. And then I came in the office and I hyperventilated. Because I'm like, I don't know where to send policy change forms. I don't know where to upload policy. I don't know anything. Why would I? right? Like there's no good reason for me to know how. And so, y'all excited? At this point, I went into a small panic and went, okay, dig in. All right, I'm smart. I know the business. I can make phone calls, and I spent 3 or 4 hours. And we don't have a lot of business, but we got some. And I went, okay, we got to do this. We got this wired, and I got on the phones, and I started doing this. We started, and I came home exhausted, because I'm not an administrator. Like details freak me out, like overwhelm me, and I just want to get in the corner and cry. Like this is not fun. So at this point, about 3 days later, I started to feel like, okay, I'm not gonna die, right? And really, I was feeling sorry for myself for those 3 days. You guys all understand? Like I wasn't digging ditches, right? I wasn't going to jails. Like I had to answer some phones and fax some forms. Like really, grow the hell up. But I was still whining because it took time. Make sense? But then about 72 hours after, I went, OMG, but I didn't say that. I actually said that because we had the conversation. I'm like, this thing is so much more important than I thought it was. Because if I promote an RVP, when we promote an RVP, if they feel the way I feel right now, there's no way they're going to talk to people. There's no way they're going to go sell the dream. There's no way they're going to go recruit and train people because like there's so much that needs to be done. Like there's just no way. That makes sense? And so I came home and I went around and I'm like, oh, we're totally dialing it. We're totally like, this is unbelievable. This is so critical. It's crazy. Like, I don't know how anyone does this. And I'm like railing against it because y'all know how I do. And I'm like, oh, I totally got it. And then this morning, Anna started with us. She's going to work Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, right? And so we sat with her today and I started with her. I'm like, look, the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure, like, she knows nothing about what we do. Like, Stace had to unlearn Sandlot, but like, we had to start from scratch. I mean, she understands that we help people in insurance and investments. She understands what David, and so it was the first time that I had to articulate what we do to someone that has really no frame of reference. They've got no resistances, but no frame of reference on what's the difference between a custom advantage versus a term now versus like a 10-year versus a 20-year, like all of this, and why do we do, and she left blank stares, and I sat in my chair and went, oh my God, I have no idea how an RVP, just to think about this, because I want to make sure that we understand the opportunity that we have in front of us and the benefit of this. So here's what happens. So let's take Tony and Wendy. Tony and Wendy, Wendy's taking her test tomorrow, saying good luck, Wendy. Right? So Tony and Wendy are taking their test tomorrow. Emma's taking test tomorrow. Next Monday, Grease is taking her test. And the next week, Isaac and Norma are taking their tests, right? So Tony and Wendy are going to have 5 codes this month, right? So Isaac is starting to build his team. Norma's got a person on her team, right? One of them are going to be senior reps in September, October. Tony and Wendy will be district leaders in October, right? They're going to start keep building and growing. They'll hire more directs. They'll get more things going. Their goal is to be divisions by the end of the year, right? They got a really good shot if they do at least 3 recruits this month and 2,500 and get these people past their test. There's a good shot they're on pace for the Bahamas. So in February, they're in the Bahamas, right? So they're division leaders in the Bahamas, all right, getting this same kind of understanding going. They got 10 or 15 or 18 people on their team. Things are cranking, right? By June, they're regional leaders. And by September to November, they've got a legitimate shot to be an RVP. So what we're going to do in the next 12 months is teach them how to tell the access gap story, teach it, learn it, right? Deliver policies, write FN, create FNAs, right? Get people licensed, get people securities licensed, get them coming to the meeting, getting people to learn how to build a team. Like they're going to learn how to invite people, how to go on recruiting appointments, how to be able to explain the access gap to people that they're bringing, how to make sure that moms and dads love their new recruits and they understand, they lock in allies, they lock in advocates, they recruit advocates to associates. Like that's their job. In the next 12 months, we're going to spend all of our time teaching them how to build and recruit and build a team that locks in allies, advocates, and associates. You all with me? Sounds like a good year. Yeah? Right, because you're beating them right now, so might as well, we could tell the story about you too, but they got 5 people that are going to take the test, right? But it sounds like a good year, right? So I have a question. So now all of a sudden, let's just say it's October 1st, 2016, and we say RVP contract. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da. Yeah, here's your RVP contract. Boom. And they're like, oh, an RVP. This is my precious, right? And all of a sudden, we're like, hey, what's the power of an RVP? Right? Let's say their team's doing $25,000 of business. They give up a placement. Then after being RVP, they do $10,000 of business. They've got $4 million of assets under management. They're making 10 grand. Right? 23 years old, making $10,000 a month as a regional vice president. Y'all with me? Sounds good. And then we come in. I'm like, okay, it's October 2nd, buddy. Show up. Let's go. All right, Wendy, you guys do. Okay, so here's the thing. Write this number down, 770-381-1000. That's Primerica's home office. You're now a regional vice president. So all of the people that you've recruited, your job is to make sure that they get licensed. All the life sales that you've written, you've got to make sure that those policies get issued. All the securities clients, you've got to make sure you follow up with. Right? All the administrative, the compliance stuff that needs to get done. All of this stuff that we've spent exactly no time teaching you how to do. Because that stuff doesn't get you to regional vice president. You now have to do it. And if you don't do it, then business is going to start falling off the books and your $10,000 a month income is going to drop to $3,000. Sounds awesome. Sign me up. I'm watching Sue and Don right now and they're like, well, I don't understand what, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. Right? And when you say it out loud, it's disgusting. What's the likelihood of Tony and Wendy having a good rest of 2016, Cindy? I pulled into a corner. We have no one here today because after 18 years of me knowing how to run this business and stay pretty focused through lots of things, I was in the corner going, trying to do business, and our base shop has done about 8 sales. In the last 90 days, we've done about 8 sales. And I'm in the corner wanting to cry. They just did 25, 30, 40 sales going regional vice president. They've done 20, 25 new IBAs. They got 10 or 12 new licenses a month. And I feel like this on 3 IBAs and 8 sales. What's the likelihood of them continuing to grow? Pretty good? No. That is happening across the country. An amazing time at the end of the day, right? Went through, had the conversations, and I was like dialed in here. I'm like, oh. When Hannah left today, I understood the value of access support more than I ever have before. Because what we're going to do is she's excited, and we've got a couple more people. The goal is by the beginning of the year to have 2 or 3 more part-timers, and by this time next year to always stay ahead. You know, Rob and I have a leap, right? You're over-prepared. We're gonna overstaff rather than understaff because growth is important, right? We'll make sure that we've got the right people in place so that we can support the growth that's going to go. So now all of a sudden, let's flip this story. Nothing else changes, but we got access support dialed in. Tony and Wendy do everything exactly the same. But now they're an RVP. Nothing changes. They get a bill because now they get to pay for the support that's in place. So access support bills them because there's capital that goes to that. But I got a question. If you're making 10 grand a month, would it make sense to pay $1,000 in administrative costs to make sure that $9,000 of profit comes in and that you have the opportunity to continue to grow? Your clients still come in, the phone calls still get supported. The person that's in the life department handles the life department. Your new associates are still developed with your new associates, right? The folks that are handling the securities are still there, right? You get a phone, right? You buy a phone, we got a phone, and all of a sudden you plug it into your new office and nothing changes. The exact same phone number rings, or we give you a new phone number, but the old phone number rings, works the exact same thing. So when your client calls, it goes directly into the main hub anyway. They need help with life, it goes over to life securities. Nothing changed, and you can be anywhere in the country. I almost died today trying to explain phase 1 of a 10-phase strategy when it comes to supporting our clients to someone who doesn't really understand what we're doing. She's smart, she's focused, she works hard, but she has no experience. But what we're gonna do is have a team of people in place, Damon. So one, this ain't ever happening again. Because we will have a team in place, an institutionalized knowledge in place, so that if someone transitions out, there's gonna be 4 other people that can transition in, and we just can keep growing, because I ain't ever going through this again. But none of you will ever experience my last 3 weeks once we get this thing up and done. Like, the opportunity you have as an owner is ridiculous. And so tonight, one of the things that this really is our entrepreneur meeting. This is the opportunity to grow. And so it's not the, like, look, administration is not the sexiest topic in the world until you lose money. Until you go interview small business owners that are out of business. And you ask them, why are you out of business? And 8 out of 10 of them will be, we ran out of money before we figured out what to do. And to realize that Tony and Wendy can go crazy over the next 12 months and legitimately be a regional vice president, get that plaque, right, celebrate, and all of a sudden walk down and then realize that nothing changed, that they wake up on October 2nd and they just continue to go recruit and train directs. They keep continuing to lock in allies. They continue to go work with their folks. They continue to let people know that there's an opportunity in place. And then when they promote a vice president, the exact same transition happens. They know that the very next day, their new RVPs open the door of the office for the very first time, and we get to grow. There's 70 million families that are stuck, and we are the only ones coming. We can't have people slow us down. We can't be slowed down by this process. So Stacy leaving was perfect for her. It was hard emotionally on us. But 3 weeks later, there literally isn't anything better that's happened to our organization than her making the choice that she made for her family. Like, it's gonna be a little rough for the next little bit, and Anna might drive David a little bit crazy, and David might be confronted that he's gonna learn a lot more than he thought he did at a much faster rate, because she's like, wait, does David know this? I'm like, well, that ain't a question I can answer. And so, right, there might be a speed trial coming in the Camacho home, but we're building this because it's an asset for everybody in this room. You have a strategic partnership of great things that can absolutely shift what's going on, right? And that's, one, apology is not the right word, but I lost my edge on our growth of our AAA'z Night, and I can reset it. We're gonna go do it again tomorrow. We're gonna start again tonight. You know, we're gonna reset. We're gonna blow out next Wednesday night, right? We're gonna have guests, and we're gonna talk to everybody in this room about having guests, because we've grown. If you look around, we're a whole lot bigger, and in the last 2 months, we're bigger. We did what we said we wanted to do. Now, we're not as big as we wanted to be, but there's more than 6 people in the room, and so we've grown. We can grow more, and we now can grow with more purpose. And so my goal is for all of us to have a guest next Wednesday night. To be able to hear this story one more time. Yubi's going to introduce, right? So we wanted to make sure that, you know, we get to hear from him and be able to go through and do that. And so, right, it'll be a nice transition and change, right? He beat Tony last month, so he should have done it earlier in the month, but we're going to start a little bit of, you know, recognition and stuff like that. In fact, one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that we did this recognition. And Cindy, if you have your phone, because you love doing like the Facebook and stuff like that, is this guy, like, so Yubi's been with us for a little bit, right? But, you know, really started in the last little bit. And went out last Saturday, and 2.5 hours we sat with a couple families, and he made $621 in 2.5 hours. Like, that's real money, guys. That's a big deal. So I wanted to make sure, so the 2 things. One is I wanted to celebrate Yubi. I wanted him to be able to recognize his first primary check. So come on up here, Mr. Yubi. If you want to take a picture there, so some.
Yeah, I like this.
We have had a tree.
And then, Sam, if you could So my friend Yubi has been sending me texts that have been I've been losing my, like, so if you wouldn't mind for about 2 minutes, just talking about kind of where you're at, what some of the snaps have been, and some of the realizations, some of the interactions, and just some of what's going on, because I think we're all at a place where a few little tweaks, like it's not monumental changes, but it's a few little changes, little tweaks, and really, really good stuff happens. And I don't think there's anyone better than my friend Yubi to be able to talk about that. That's happened to you, so.
Okay. One of the things I did was I started taking a look at myself to see where, because I knew I have to change. I knew I had to get better at this, but I wanted to see where. And one of the things that first clicked with me was 2 AA'z nights ago. All I kept hearing was skill, the word skill, the word skill. Everybody kept saying about you got to learn this skill. It's a skill to do this. So then I developed, even Anthony has developed the skill of working long hours, being up at 4, going to bed at 9 o'clock. So I was like, okay, I could stay up for a long time. What else can I learn during that time without going into waste? Because it's already a habit of just getting up and being up for that long. So one of the things I did was I started, when I have the conversation, because every time I'm out working, all the people know me as, oh, there's a Coca-Cola guy. Hey, what's up, Coca-Cola? And I'm like, how do I change that? Because it's kind of hard for me to go from, hey, what's up, how's that Coca-Cola guy doing? Going from that to going to talking about this, you know? It's like it throws off the conversation. So I was like, okay, how do I get them for them to look at me, not as a Coca-Cola guy, but as that aspiring entrepreneur that's doing something different. So when they come and talk to me, they're going to be asking me, hey, so how's that thing going? Instead of like, how's Coca-Cola doing? You know what I mean? Coca-Cola's going to be fine, you know? But, so it's like, how do I change that? And one of the things I would say is like, because there's changes going on at work, so then they're asking me if I'm going to take up a sales position there. And I'm like, no, you know what? I have other stuff that I have in mind. And what do they ask when I say that? What do you have in mind? So then I just tell them, you know what? I'm working with this high-level couple. They're high-level entrepreneurs. They're teaching me the entrepreneur spirit of how to become an entrepreneur, the ins and outs of it. So it's like, they're like, oh, really? I get that look, and then I don't go any further from there because it'll just go into a rabbit hole where they're just like, okay, I don't know what he's doing. So then I just leave it there, and then the next time when they talk to me, guess what they ask me now? How's that thing going? So then that's when I go into the access gap story. You know, there's 7 million family stock, you know, and all that stuff, and they're like, wow, okay. And then I just stop there, and then the next time it'll go further and further, and then eventually that's how I, you know, end up having a different conversation, excuse me, other than just Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? So then now they're looking at me differently, and then that's when the things I have changed. You know, and during the process, it sharpened my skill as far as like me talking about the access gap story. I mean, when I sit with them, I'm not scared of like, oh, what do I say? What's going on? You know, I just let it flow. You know, just let it flow. I take their input more than what I give out because I want to know where they're at. Because I could be feeding them stuff and they're not ready. They're not ready. You know, so I just let them, you know, just flow back and forth. You know, and then I do that. I try to do that with as many people as I get in contact with, and then the ones that I don't, I'm building that relationship. Like, hey, how's it going? How's the weekend? I'm opening up more to them, you know, versus just like, hey, what's up? I'm just walking away. Now it's just like, hey, so how's the weekend? How's everything? You know, some people open up, some don't. You know, what are you gonna do? You know, so then that's one of the things I changed of me because it's kind of hard. It is. I mean, we probably make it easy being up at 4 in the morning, but it's not. You just walking like a zombie, you know, sometimes. But man, it's just my attitude's changed. Go in there like, hey, how's it going? How's everything? You know, I mean, and then they look at you differently. You know, they start asking you questions. You're like, what's going on? You know, and a lot of times they think it's because of Coca-Cola or being happy with stuff. You know? It's like, no, dude, I got other stuff in my mind that I'm working on, and you know, I want to share with you. You know, and then some people they get lost when you talk about entrepreneurship because And that's another thing I changed because I had a employee mentality, not an entrepreneur mentality. Meaning, an employee mentality is somebody that works to go buy stuff, you know. And I'm looking at things like I'm doing stuff it's everything's an investment now. My time, everything that I do. I don't have that employee that I'm going to work these many hours so I can buy this, so I can buy that. Because I look back the past couple of years and it's like, it's just the same crap. So like I need to change that, and then that has also changed my habits of how do I spend my money, how do I do this, everything in finance. It changed all of that, So then when I set the appointment and I found out the amount and all that, I'm like, yes. I'm like, dude, I gotta invest in slacks and a shirt. My slacks don't fit me no more. So it's like, okay, because it's part of my business, so I gotta invest in that, and the rest is just gotta put it away, So it's little things that they made a big difference, And then one of the things I heard from Brett because I watched the videos for Saturday, and he says, know your next 2 steps. Always know your next 2 steps. He said it for like an example for his kids that if you're walking on rocks, you gotta know, or else you're gonna be like, shit, I gotta go this way, not that way, So then that's another thing that I took from it. It's like, okay, I gotta know the next 2 steps, and not just with myself, but with the people that I'm talking to. I gotta know the next 2 steps with them. If they're like, hey, I want to know more about what you're doing. Okay, cool. I gotta know the next 2 steps of what I'm going to talk about with them. So then this way the conversation keeps going and going and going and going, and it doesn't go into like a freeze. That's pretty much it. What I've changed. It's helped a lot.
Awesome. You guys understand, like, that's serious work. We go back to this, and I want to make sure. Let me make sure that Yubi's done remarkable work, but he's not here on Saturdays. But he takes advantage of the videos and the time, and we meet, and he's making sure that he's fundamentally doing the work for him and his son, even though he's not here. And so one of the things that we want to make sure we do is that we create that. And listen, I didn't say that for anyone in the room to feel bad about any choices. One of our pillars is we celebrate others' victories as though they're our own. This isn't about what you're not doing. This is about understanding the positive growth when someone makes the choices that they're making. There's a huge fundamental difference. That was remarkable, and the opportunity to grow fires me up. And what's funny is one of the guys that he helped was one of those asked, right, how much?
Oh yeah, he asked me how much. Is it like, because he's money driven, and he asked me like, so how much did you make? And I told him, yes. He's like, oh, 25, 30 bucks, like higher, and it just kept going. And then I think I said like 6 something. He's like, what?
It's unreal. Like, guys, I don't think you understand. Like, if you think about this for a second, $10 an hour, which is a part-time gig, $621, bring home that's real money. You understand that that's 62, that's probably 75 hours of work. 75 hours of work for 2.5 hours. Like, when we put certain things in perspective, we start realizing we're not talking about vitamins and cookies and herbs to blow up our stomach. We're talking about real stuff that changes real things. And it's about impact. It's about making sure that this family's taken care of. And it was the easiest sale in the history of the world because Yubi's developed the relationship. The relationship was the priority. The impact was inevitable.
Can I say the other part to it?
Yeah.
They're related to another RVP in the office up there in Lancaster. And the guy said, we're going to go with you, because of the relationship I had built with this guy. Just like talking with him.
And he was lukewarm. You and I sat down. We built a list. He's lukewarm and then warm. Okay, start asking these questions and start asking these and start getting to know and start cultivating and developing the relationship. And it shifted. It's everything that we've talked about. So it's a very, 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 very big deal. The next person I wanted to talk up for like 4 minutes, stuff like that. Maybe 10, right? Let's wait. But a lot of positive shifts. And one of the things that we've realized is that in the last 4 months, 3 or 4 months, there's been a fundamental shift in Wade's approach. And now all of a sudden the impact and the direction is going in that direction. So, again, as an entrepreneur, as new folks that are growing, it's good to be able to measure growth and to see the changes in what's going on. So we want to hear a few minutes, Mr. Wade Spokesman.
I got really fired up by what Ubi had to say because, during AA'z Night, we talk about the 4 principles, okay? We talk about the 4 principles of the Main Street families, and we talk about the 4 principles of the wealthy, okay? And what Ubi was talking about, the idea of the employee mentality, okay, I make this much money, and then I'm gonna go buy something, right? That's what we talk about basically about, we isolate, we just try to do everything ourselves, and that's basically what we do. It is employee mentality. We try to isolate with something, right? Well, I got fired up because Ubi, you said like you looked the last 3 years. So 3 years ago, historically, you were doing that. You got what you wanted, and you felt good about it, right? And then now you're like, oh, there's a different way to approach this. And how do you feel now versus what you're doing with your money versus what you were doing then? How do you feel about that?
Now it feels more solid.
Right.
And before it felt like it's just short-term good feeling, and then it's gone.
Right, and the reason why this fires me up is because now as you work on these skills, do you think you're going to be better or worse at them as you work on them 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, right? And do you feel like 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, the compound effect of all of those decisions are going to basically change your life, right?
Yep.
Like, look, the only thing I want to share with you guys is what changed for me with regards to where we were at is that the language changed for me, okay? And that's what became very, very important. And what I mean by that is this, is that when we started talking about the concept of the engine, does everybody remember the concept of the engine, right? Which is that whatever you're doing right now, whatever job you have, whatever you're fulfilling your time with, that's the engine for you to be able to pay your bills, okay? So if you, instead of looking at your job negatively and saying, oh, like you could work you work at Coke, right? And like when you're driving around during the day, I'm sure there's sometimes you get stressed out, right? Well, for me, basically, for my job, I was exactly the same way. I did everything the same way that you did. You were talking about, well, when I was going to work with my money, I could only accomplish and buy this, right? So you're isolating. For me, I used to be like, it doesn't really matter how much I work. It's only the amount of revenue that I can make, right? And so it doesn't really matter. Those numbers may be different depending on what vehicle that we're in, but 2 things are happening there. 1, nobody likes what they're in, which is the attitude they bring because they isolate. And 2, you are going to cap out at some point, right? Coke's going to cap you out at some point, right? And so I only want to talk for 2 more minutes. And what I really started to get excited, where things really started to change for me, was when I looked at our system that we're running, all right? Now, I'm a football fan, okay? So last week was the first week of football. And it doesn't matter if you're a football fan or not a football fan. Back in the 1980s, 1990s, Bill Walsh developed something called the West Coast offense, okay? In the college game, Rich Rodriguez developed something called the spread offense, okay? It doesn't really matter. Sometimes someone will come along and they'll innovate a system, right, and they'll apply it. Well, 2 things that people don't really know about it. The spread is just an extension of the West Coast offense. Okay, so all Rich Rodriguez did that revolutionized college football was he looked at something that worked and he applied it to his system of college football without the athletes. What we're doing basically is AA'z Night is real. When we talk about the 4 principles that the way that the wealthy think, they really do think that way, and they really do utilize those things. And what I want to share with you guys is that 2 things changed for me. 1, Ubi, if you feed in your mind, I'm different than I was 3 years ago about how I treated my money, and I feel better about my money and my job at Coke, right? How are you going to feel 5 years from now implementing those skills over 5 years? There's a peace of mind there. You see, the big fallacy that everyone has is that money makes you feel safe, or that money makes you feel secure and everything like that. Actually, money can make you feel incredibly insecure. If I gave everyone here $1 million or $2 million, it's like you won the lottery, you're going to start to freak out because you're not going to know what to do with it. All right. You may know what to do with it initially in terms of, yeah, we'd all buy what we want to buy, but then what are we going to do, right? 80% of all lottery winners, or some huge number, lose all their money, not because they're dumb, but they just have the skills of money. So things changed for me when I began to realize that this is real. The system that we're running, all we're doing is just like Rich Rodriguez took the spread from Bill Walsh, we're taking the system of how the wealthy approach their money and we're applying it to our system and what we do. We can have confidence that our lives are going to change in 3 years from now, just like Ubi's life changed from how he dealt with his money 3 years ago. And the key for us is that we can have that peace of mind now. Okay? We don't have to wait until we get $5,000 a month. We don't have to wait until we get $10,000 a month. Ubi has peace of mind now. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's some number that he feels more peaceful about and secure about where he's at than where he was 3 years ago. And that's a skill that can be developed. It's not luck, all right? And the reason why that's important is that in this situation that we're in right now, for me, what has changed is that I started to turn to our language, all right? When every day when I would go to my job, and I had to go to the jail today, and it was not, I didn't have to go to jail because I got arrested, but as part of my job, I was visiting somebody in the jail, right? And that's not a fun, pleasant experience. But because I constantly feed to myself, this is the engine that allows me to come here on Wednesday night and allows me to grow my Primerica business. Every time a client screams at me, every time there's a Coke has a problem with deliveries, I'm feeding the language of the engine of whatever it is that you're doing. You're arming yourself so we don't spend any time wasted saying this sucks, okay? I don't like to work, lamenting, whatever. And as soon as I turned to the language and that started to bring me some peace of mind, then I said, well, what other parts of the language and the 4 principles will help bring that to me? And that's when the skill part started to come in. That's when the leverage and the experts parts started to come in. Like, look, my business is not exploding in terms of financially right now, in terms of an actual bottom line. But my business is exploding is that I'm aligning myself with the principles of our system. And I'm believing and using the language every single day. So I'm the calmest human being in the history of time right now, okay? I know that my success and everything that's gonna happen is inevitable. And the reason why it's inevitable is because we have a really, really good system that's been validated by the wealthy in this country. And in closing, there's a huge fallacy, and we talked about it in AAA'z Night all the time about isolating, right? Who here has heard about like a Texas Ranger, one riot? Anybody ever hear about that? No. I don't know, maybe I grew up in the Midwest, right? The whole concept of one ranger, one riot is that in Texas, there were the Texas Rangers. And if there was a problem, they'd send one guy, right? And he would go and he would fix it. And they'd be like, one ranger, one riot, okay? What they don't tell you in that is the reason why one ranger could go fix a riot of 100 people is because everybody knew that if people messed with that one ranger, then all the rest of the rangers come back and they solve that problem, right? So it's a fallacy. The Fast and the Furious 7 came out, right? And there was a scene in it where The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, rushes down and someone says, did you bring the cavalry? And he goes, I am the cavalry, right? That's all an illusion. It's all a lie, right? We do that in our culture because we say, well, we got to be so good, or we got to be so bad, or we got to be so the cavalry for everyone. We don't. All we have to do is work as a team and apply these principles, and we get to be chill and relaxed about our security and what's going to happen, and we can attack with our passion and grit to create what we want to happen. And that's what's changed for me. And the only difference between perhaps what Ubi is doing, or David's doing, or anyone else here, is that how we're embracing with the language every day and running to the system. Because I'm telling you, the rich have already validated it, and that's the only difference. And so I can tell you is that the calm and the peace that I feel with my security is worth more than $1 million. And it is worth more than $1 million, both of those. Thank you.
So, that was phenomenal. And it's funny, one of the things Wade and I were, like, did that make sense? But one of the things that I talk about is Wade and I, over the last 90 days, have probably talked every day. And it's like, and we talked about this this morning, but it's a shift, right? In the beginning of relationships, I'm the pursuer for the most part, right? I'll text, I'll call, and hey, how are things? Hey, how are things? Hey, how are things? How are things? How many of you have gotten those types of interactions from me? Hey, how are things? Hey, how are things? Hey, how are things? Hey, how are things? And that's my job. Hey, how are things? Hey, how are things? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And then something shifted with Wade because now Wade's the pursuer for me. Wade's like, and Wade will text me, and if I don't text him back, Wade will call me. If I don't call back, he'll Wade call me again, right? And I've watched him over this last little bit break down what's going on, apply the language. It's funny, as I was listening to you, but you did a remarkable job. But what you're doing is you're resetting the expectations of the people of color. And I went over to Wade when you were talking, I'm like, he's resetting, because there's a premise in the language that allows us to go clear, right? So I remember Wade being where you were, explaining the ideas, but not necessarily owning the language yet. And all of a sudden, like, oh my God, that's what that's gonna look like in like a couple, it's crazy. So phenomenal. The last couple I want to have come up with, Tony and Wendy can come up here for a second. Come on up here, please, for a second. This couple's been doing a remarkable job, and I really wanted to hear from Wendy, but it'd be weird if I only had Wendy come up, so I'm gonna have Tony come up too. No, it's been fun because I've been able to mess with him, and he takes it really, really well. But what I want to just a minute, because you guys have been growing, your people are going, you're getting ready to take your test, and I really do want to hear from both of you. Just like, what are you seeing? What skill have you accomplished, or why are you, like Tony, because you've been working really hard to kind of get this dialed in and to really understand it. So I want to hear from you. But Wendy, from the side, like you came in and it was kind of Tony's thing, and then you're like, well, this is kind of fun. You've been spending some more time with us, and I'm watching a shift in your mind of what's possible. And so I'd love to kind of hear, you've never shared this with me, but I'd love to kind of see if you could share it with everybody. So the awesome Tony and Wendy for.
Well, I guess just coming every Wednesday and like for the meetings, it like actually shifts your mind to say like, wow, like there's grow, you know, and just seeing yourself grow each and each day. I'm nervous.
You're great.
You're great. So even with like the test, like taking it the first time and not passing it, I'm like, oh man. So taking it the second time in, I want to go in and like, kill it. So I know, just seeing yourself grow and those possibilities.
One thing that's I've been working on my skill lately, and it's the skill of having a lot of grit. And one thing I learned in GPS this week, and it's the skill of staying focused. It's the skill of the drive and the dream, the goal that you have. And as you get to vision that, you get to dream about it every day. And dreams could become reality if that's what you do passionately. If you have the grit to become that person. And so Brett and I will have conversations, and for some reason, four or five conversations, the same conversation. You kind of get tired of that, like having the same conversation. It's like, okay, there's something missing inside you that needs to push to a different level. And so I started using what Ubi does a lot, is the videos, right? You go ahead and you apply, or you take a lot of the skills, you turn that into a skill basically to challenge yourself. What more is there? And 2 Wednesdays ago, I finally connected with, it finally made a lot more sense that there's 10,000 people turning 65 every day for the next 10 years, 19 years. And that hit me, right? My father is going there, my grandfather is going there, and there's a shift in this. And nobody's coming to that. And so it's very, very valuable, and the need is wide. And so that's the skill that I'm turning into. I'm pursuing it. Awesome.
So, and again, it's fun. And the first time up here is like you start watching growth and you start kind of piecing things together. So thank you guys for sharing. I wanted Robin to share for 10 minutes. You can tell kind of the story. Wasn't here on Saturday and was missed, but had a pretty cool experience. So.
Be careful on the you pursuing him and you pursuing him, so you can end up married. So now that's where that can go. So interestingly, grit is a word that seems to keep coming up in my life. People keep using it, and I think it's really interesting. The definition of grit is your capacity to dig deep and do whatever it takes to achieve your most worthy goals in the best way. Pretty interesting, right? Your capacity to dig deep and do whatever it takes to achieve your most worthy goals in the best way. And I think that's really what we're talking about here, right? Digging deep, having that grit to achieve those goals. And one of the things that I was listening to from all of the speakers is everyone is talking about a mind shift. Because what we know is that our actions follow our mind. We can focus on our actions. We can say we're building a particular habit that is an action, and if our mind isn't in the right place, we will not succeed at that. So if you're not producing the results that you're looking for in your life, in whatever it is, I encourage you to look at not the actions that are happening, but the mindset that you have. Because if you're not getting the inevitable results you want, it's because somewhere in your mind, there's something going on that you don't realize that's actually leading to the results that you're getting. And that's something that I kept hearing over and over again. And interestingly, that was a theme of the event that I went to. I love Oprah. Everyone here know Oprah, right? We're all best friends with Oprah. Oh, we really like Oprah, huh? Yeah. I love Oprah. And what I really love is Oprah has a network, and she has something called Super Soul Sundays. Is anyone familiar with Super Soul Sundays? No? Okay. So Oprah decided that with her impact, with her experience, she wanted to sit down with the spiritual leaders and change agents of our generation and interview them each Sunday so that we could all benefit from their wisdom. It's pretty freaking cool, right? You can see these interviews. And she's been doing this for several years, and now they decided to do what's called Super Soul Sessions, which are shorter versions of Super Soul Sundays. She's still doing Super Soul Sundays at 7 o'clock on Sundays. I know I'm like a commercial for it, it's fabulous. But now they're doing 25-minute segments, shorter segments, in order for each of these individuals, change agents, spiritual leaders, to be able to give a talk for 25 minutes on a particular topic. And I have been saying this year, Oprah had done a weekend, this fabulous weekend where you could go and meet with all these spiritual leaders. And ever since I heard about the weekend, I was like, I want to go. I want to go to this. It costs a lot of money right now, and I want to go to this. And I just know in my mind, like, I'm meant to be in a room with these people. And somehow a friend of mine called 2 weeks ago and said, I have a ticket to the taping of Super Soul Sessions. Would you like to go? It's working. I was like, those little reminders, right? I put out the intention and received back from the universe. So I was like, okay, so this is going to be cool. Oprah, and I don't know how many of you heard of Deepak Chopra. Yes, we've heard of Deepak Chopra. Okay, so it's a big spiritual leader, huge change agent of our generation. And I was like, oh, cool, we're going to sit down and they're going to do a little interview and that'll be neat. And then I started learning a little bit more about it and heard that the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, you might have heard of a book that was pretty influential. Elizabeth Gilbert was going to be there. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Then I got there and found out that there were 15 spiritual leaders and change agents who each spoke for 25 minutes, and I was 10 rows from every single one of them. Yeah, like I have chills. I can't even talk about it without getting chills head to toe. It was crazy. It was crazy. And what was so impressionable, and you're going to hear this from me on multiple Saturdays because there's too much information at any one time, but a couple themes emerged that were so validating for what we're doing here. And the first theme that emerged was that our actions follow our mindset, which is what we're hearing in here. And the second theme that emerged, which Wade touched on, is that happiness, the happiest people in the world, the people who live the longest, are not the people who have the most money, though money can help. They're not the people, as a predictor of happiness, as a predictor of the happiest people in the world and the most longevity, they're not even the people who aren't smokers. The greatest predictor of happiness? Your social connections. Developing relationships in here. The greatest predictor of happiness and longevity in the research. Right? Pretty cool stuff. Tony's thinking about it. I see it, right? The greatest predictor, social connections. I know when Tony's processing. We got that. And the third, two more things that emerged that I want to share with you. Marianne Williamson was there, who wrote A Return to Love. Amazing. And one of the things that she talked about was that by design, we are physically designed to collaborate. Our cells do not form hearts and spleens and digestive systems when they are out of collaboration, when they're not working in relationship to each other, when they're not listening to each other, when they're not sharing the same language. Because a cell that doesn't share the same language, a cell that doesn't relate to the other cells, do you know what that's called? It's called cancer. Isn't that interesting? So if we learn from the way that our bodies are designed, how we can be most successful in relating in the world and in supporting each other, we start with sharing the same language, using language, collaborating with each other in a single direction. So it was pretty amazing as an experience, and the fact that so much of the research that's out there really validates what we're doing in here. And the last thing that I want to share with you, which I think is very relevant to what we're talking about tonight, is we talked about the distinction of, and I want you to think about this one. Oh. No. There. You know I always write notes. We talked about the distinction of living now for later versus living later now. Let me say that again. The distinction of living now for later versus living later now. Most of us live later now. Most of us are sitting here thinking, I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I should do this, and I should do that. So we're living now, right? We're living later now. Oh, I got to do, I got to do, I got to do. Versus saying, here's where I want to get to. This is where I want to get to later. And everything I do now is in alignment with impacting what I want to get to later. Okay? So, later now. Oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I should be doing this. I'm sitting with my family and I'm thinking about what I should be doing at work. I'm sitting at work thinking about what I should be doing with my family. Versus, here are my goals for my family. Here are my goals for my business. Here are my goals for my life. And everything I do is in alignment and towards those goals. Because we have that control, right? We've all talked about responsibility in here. We have the ability to respond. So what that means is, as much as my husband took responsibility for tonight, we all have responsibility for our own lives and our own goals. And I never let him get off the hook of taking all the responsibility for every single person in this room. So it's up to us to live now for later. To say, where are we getting to and what are we going to do today to get there? So I want you to think about where you want to be next week and do now for us to get there. Yeah? With me? Awesome. Thank you.
So here's my question. With a team like you just experienced, how can you fail? I don't care what we're doing. With the people like you, the people like Tony and Wendy, the people like Wade, the people like Robin,
How
right?
could you not win?
How could not win? How could you not win? What else is there? And I'm sitting in the back of the room and I'm just blown away by all these people. I'm fired up, I'm excited, and I'm like, man, and not like it's one thing to be like, we've got the right team. But then when you put that together, and again, one of the right, the four questions that I love talking about when it comes to business, right? Right? If you're gonna go into business, if someone sat down with you and said, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to do something, right? The questions that they're gonna ask, right, really is, what's the market? Well, if you had a business where the market was 70 million families, you had an opportunity to serve 70 million families. If you could solve a problem for 70 million folks, should you be successful in business? Yeah. And whether you like it or not, like, boom, you could suck. But if you got 70, look, if you just walked up to people and said you want to buy something, enough people are going to sooner or later be like, well, I don't know, what are you selling? I mean, if you had 70 million people to go through, there's some people who just like buying stuff, right or wrong. If you walk up to enough people, you want to buy something, you buy, oh, no. Well, what are you selling, right? Now you got a conversation. Now, once they say yes, you got to be able to tell the story, but shoot, right? Well, we happen to be in the financial services industry. I have a question. How many of us think the banks have any interest in you getting wealthy? How about the lenders? Any interest in you getting out of debt? You realize that if you get out of debt, they make no more money. The insurance companies, they want to make sure you're protected. You guys understand, I've been asking this question this way for at least 4 years, very cleanly, and I've never had anybody argue with me. Never. What does that, you guys understand how absolutely bat crazy that is? That we can make a statement that the three most powerful industries that this group of people is supposed to talk to, none of us think our goals are aligned. And they call us weird. Like people are like, and it just happened to me. I had a client, they're like, well, I mean, I bank at my bank because they're my bank. And I'm like, well, huh? Do you think your bank has any interest in you getting wealthy? No, but you're going to try. Why? I don't understand. But no one's ever been forced to ask that question. Right? So, right? How about eat? If you live, how many of you plan on living?
Yeah.
I mean, like eating is going to play a relatively important role in your life. How many of you like eating every day? Multiple times. And every once in a while, right? So, right? But if you live, like, if you retire, you guys understand, I have a question. Do you spend more money when you're at your job or when you're not at your job? Not. So now all of a sudden at work, like when you work your 40 hours a day, 40 years, like you're at work, you can't spend money. Well, there's Amazon. Now people can figure that out for the most part. But when you're home, you got nothing else to do. Food's going to play an important role in your life. If you die, how many think your family should eat? Like everyone wants big houses and cars and all that. And look, big houses and cars and nice traveling is great. Let's take care of the food conversation first. Everyone goes, oh, primarily, make your million yet. Hey, that's coming. But you know what I'm going to make sure my family can always do? Eat. If I live, they're going to eat. If I die, they're going to eat. That seems like a relatively important thing to have in our future. And if you have a life, you better plan because you know you're going to want to eat. See, guys, if you had a business where your market was 70 million families, there was literally no competition, and the need was vital, do you think you should be successful? So then it comes down, and it's funny, and I've learned so much from my wife. But one of the things that I learned, right, because I love ideas, and we sit and talk, and my wife's an open book. Like she loves sharing. And I'm like protective, like not as much anymore, but in the beginning, like, and then I'm like, but Dave, I got these ideas, and you're telling, like, what happens if you share? And she looked at me, she goes, I've been working with businesses for a long time. Here's what I know. Everyone has ideas. It comes down to execution. All of us have probably come up with $1 million idea, like an invention or something. We're like, oh, this will be awesome. But we don't actually do anything with it. And then sooner or later, someone else comes up with the idea, and we're like, aha, I knew that would work. But someone else is making it up. Because it's about execution. Well, what's it take for execution? Capital. Well, if you had a business that had a market share of 70 million families, no competition where the need was vital, and a $3 billion venture capitalist that said our checks never bounce, you can build it as big as you want, and we will continue to grow. If you had that, should you be successful? Now take that and add this team to it. Add the leaders in this room, the people on a mission in this room to grow and change and cultivate partnerships and to understand what's going on, to be able to lock in arms and say, you know what, together we can do it. It's not about one person being up here and everyone, it's about everyone being good at the path that they're on and everybody being comfortable with where they are, right? Tony and Wendy are just starting. Yubi's been here. You guys understand Yubi's been here for a little while. He wasn't there. He's like, man, this is where it is. Wade's like, oh, man, my team's not where I want to be, but I know I'm on pace. Every one of them showed weakness and strength. Every one of them felt comfortable in their skin as to where they are and the path that they're a part of. As a culture, we created that on purpose. Who touches us? If we could actually solve this problem, which we can, and if you're not sure how, ask us. We'll all answer. We know that this group of people has no interest to have aligned goals. Whether you like it or not, we got to do something. And Primerica's got the money to do it. And they give us the freedom. See, I've been telling you guys for a long time, we run an incubator, a business incubator. We develop entrepreneurs. And every once in a while, people fight me on that. They're like, well, it's financial services. We've been talking for the last hour and watching people grow. Have we talked about financial services? Have we talked about insurance policies or investment loans or rates of return? No. We're talking about men and women that are starting somewhere and saying, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take another step. And I'm going to take another step. And if I surround myself with the right people and we have aligned goals to change the doggone world, great things can start to happen. And we can be different in our life, in our job, and in our business. Guys, we have a shot to lock arms. We have a shot to put our flag in the ground and say, you know what? We're going to make a change. I love Primerica, but Primerica doesn't have anything on us. What we're going to be able to do is leverage the hell out of this company, right? And there's not a single office in the country that's running a meeting like this. There's nowhere else in the country that's talking about the things we're talking about. And I'm proud of that. But you know what? It's not okay anymore that the 20 of us know about it. Now we got to grow from 20 to 40. We got to grow from 40 to 100. Now we've got to stop validating the fact that the language works. And you know what we got to do? Is we got to get inspired to get better. We got to get inspired to get cleaner. We got to get inspired to tell this story one more time. We got to get inspired to challenge ourselves to grow, to lock in the language a little bit tighter, to go share it one more time, to dial it in a little bit better, and to get more people on our side, more people understanding that there's a problem. I'm proud of Priscilla and Walter coming. I'm glad, right, to be able to come support. This is unbelievable. They're walking in, they're like, we don't know what this meeting. This isn't our normal meeting, but you get to know the people that this amazing couple is locking arms with to say, you know what, we're going to go change the world. We're going to go do something. And the number one reason why you were here, invited here tonight, is for you to understand that this couple wants to do something special. And if nothing else, if every time they talk to you and you're like, man, keep it up because it's important, there's nothing more powerful in their life than the people they love understanding the mission that they're on. It's not everybody doing the business, not everyone buying or becoming a client. It's about saying, you know what, together we can accomplish more than we ever can apart. And this country is so divisive, but not in this room. We've got a shot to create something special. This is our moment. This is why we're here. Is to challenge ourselves. What do you believe? To challenge yourself. What is your going? Are you letting your mind or your heart control? What is your drive? What is stopping you? Is something, are you taking the next step? Not by comparison. Not by saying, oh, I could have done a better job, or, oh my God, I'm not as far as. But how do you start where you are and let that little fire inside say, I'm going to build one step today? Because all the people you heard speak, all weren't where they are now a month ago. But guess what? There's a really good chance none of them will be where they are now a month from now. Because that's the choice. And if we do that, and we attract people to an opportunity to change their life, you beat in 2.5 hours, make $621. That's not a little thing. Tony on a Sunday morning helped his aunt, made $210. That's not a little thing. We're going to reach the people who need it. It's too perfect. If you went to Harvard Business School and you showed them these 4 questions, there's no one there that would argue with these 4 questions. They're dead in line. And we're sitting here. This is what our opportunity is. So I'm proud to thank all the speakers, right? And I know, look, I know we could have had everybody speak, and this wasn't that, but I knew the conversations, and I wanted to showcase different people at different faces being able to talk about where they were and the next step. I'm so proud of what we're doing in this room. And I cannot wait for the rest of the country to know. I'm excited for the rest of Avenue Stanford to know. Right? We got to be #1 at Avenue Stanford. We got the rest of the month to this, man. We got to grow. We got to put more people in this room. We got to expose people to Robin. We've got to expose people to Wade. We've got to expose people to Dave. We've got to expose people to Sue. We've got to expose people to Camacho. We've got to expose people to Wendy and Tony. We've got to expose people to Sydney, to great people to UBDFT. We've got to expose people to Don. We've got to expose people to the people in this room that have said, it's time we take it back. We start dreaming again. We start believing again. We start fighting for our future again. And we start building a support system. And if we do that, no one does. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you so much. We'll be back here on Saturdays. If there's any questions, it's going to be a great Saturday from 9 to 11 on Saturdays. We will be back here next Wednesday night. And as a mission, let's grow. Let's introduce more people to the cause, to the solution, and to the options that they've got. Thank you, guys. Okay. What's up?